Now this effect that we're going to do in this section has a number of names. A number of people call it like an intro. Number of people call it like a naming slide. What I like to call it is a character introduction, and this is how it looks. That kind of style is used on so many things. He's far too cool. So many intros, so many YouTube channels, so many just things on TV. And in this section, I'm going to show you how to make that. So first and foremost, we need to get our footage. So I'm going to go to Motion Array again, and I'm going to search for On the Street. I don't find this dancing guy. I mean, how cool is he? Seriously? I just literally want to be as cool as him. So I'm going to download that, and it will very shortly end up in here over in Motion Array, which, remember, whenever you download anything from Motion Array, brings it straight into your, wow, this has really got quite big, hasn't it, into your Motion Array bin. I've got stuff twirled down here as well. Let's just close them. In fact, if I just select them all and twirl them up, maybe that used to work, maybe it doesn't anymore. And what is that called? Dancer on the Street should be here any moment now. Okay, that's taken a little bit longer than expected because it's actually a 4K piece of footage, which is great for us because, as you would have seen in the intro, although in real life I haven't made it yet, there's some zooming as well, so that's good, so nothing will be lost. And where is he? Dancer on the Street, and let's just drag him into the sequence. So here he is, all cool. Let me get rid of the rulers, and yeah, do you know what, for now I'm just going to close out these panels just so you can see this a little bit clearer. So there he is doing his thing. He's very cool. Okay, so we're going to leave this play a little bit, and I think when he looks up is when we're going to pause it. Let's get a frame where, actually no, I'm going to get it where he puts his hands up. Boom, right there. Now you see how we've got a bit of motion blur here. You see how when you freeze frame, you see how his hands are blurred. I'm going to try and get a bit where he is stopped in time long enough so there's no, that's cool. I'm going to grab that there. Cool. So how we start this is that we need to create a still of this. Now we know how to do that, either click this or hit C and export a still. But what I'm actually doing here to create the still is I'm going to create a frame hold section. What is that? Well, it's exactly what it says on the tin. If I right click and go to frame hold options, I can create a frame hold within this. But the easiest and quickest way, bearing in mind that this is going to affect everything on your timeline, so it's best to do it kind of somewhere where it's not going to affect any other track, any other footage on a track. I'm going to right click and insert frame hold segment. See what that's just created there? That right there is technically an image of this. So if I play it across these clips, he's stopped, and then we carry on again. Okay, so that's what that's done. Now I'm going to create just a little bit more room so we can see, we can kind of decide what we're doing after the fact. So that's cool. Happy with him there. That looks great. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold down Alt and we're going to drag up and let go. So we've created two versions of this guy, and the reason will become very clear very soon. So first and foremost, I'm going to highlight this first clip, and what we need to do is we need to trace out this guy. Now this is the first time we've ever used this, and this is the pen tool. Okay, so that's now going to be creating a mask around this fella. So I'm going to tilde this to make it a little bit clearer. And if you're not familiar with the pen tool, I'll leave a link in your worksheet as well, which is a great resource to be able to work out how to use the pen tool. And it's web-based, and it's brilliant. I'll just show you very quickly. It's called the Bezier game, and in short, that's all you do. You play with the pen tool. So if you bring your mouse, you can see that, okay, so I click there and I click there and I click there and I've won. So now it's telling me about shift, and that you grab it here and that doesn't work because you're dragging. So if I undo, Control and Z works, but you can click around here and click around here and click. You kind of get the picture. If you work through this whole thing, it really helps you with your pen tool ability. Okay, so I'm gonna very briefly and very vaguely say what I'm doing, but I'm literally just using this to create a path around this guy. You don't have to be absolutely accurate, just kind of close to him, and you'll see what I mean when we get closer to the end. And we're getting towards the end now. I thought I'd speed that up to save your insanity. If you want to know how I sped that up, next chapter is going to be speeding up video, and as you've seen just in here, it's so much easier to be able to give an idea of things just in a much quicker way. Yeah, you'd have probably had time to have a full 3-course meal in that. The pen tool isn't great in Premiere Pro. Anything like this that I would normally do, I'd normally kind of export it into Photoshop and do it there, but I want to do everything in here with regards to this. So that's him drawn all the way out. So let's tilde that out. That's fully masked. We've been working on this top clip, and there you can see the path, the mask that we've done. It's still there. I've just deselected it. Now, if I select the bottom clip and disable it with 0 on the number pad, remember we set that keyboard shortcut. There he is. He's completely cut out of that sequence. Good. So what we then want to do is, if we go to our effects and go for paint bucket and drag that on, it doesn't really do anything. Now, I could kind of move along from here, but just very quickly, if I start playing, it doesn't do it the right way. Okay, and that's why we need to nest this first. So let's undo and undo, and actually at this point I'm just going to take the mask feather down to 0 just to show you what that does. There's our mask there. If I turn up the mask feather, you can see that all this comes out, and sometimes you want that just to kind of give a little bit of room for error. We don't want to do that with the mask feather. We don't want that because we want a full stroke around him. So now we've got him selected, we're going to nest this, and we're going to call this cut out Kevin. I'm calling him Kevin, and he's an amazing dancer. He's the greatest dancer. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to grab the paint bucket and we're going to drag that onto him. Again, nothing has happened, but if we go fill selector and opacity, we have this again. But if we drop this down and go to stroke, boom, you've already got the stroke. It's there. Now, as you saw in the clip, we had this at white, so we turn that to white, and I'm just going to bring the stroke width up a little bit. You see what I mean about how you didn't need to be absolutely bob on with this? You know, it's just an effect that we're going for. It's still a little bit thick around there, so actually I'm going to bring that down just a little bit. That's probably enough. That's all we need at that point. So how do we then create all the other stuff? Well, you saw there was a slight grow of him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale him up. But as you see, as I scale him up, he's here around the back as well. And I don't want that. So what I'm going to do, and this takes a little bit of trial and error, I'm going to grab the anchor point for this clip. And you see where that is? I'm going to drag it just on the center of his chest. So he kind of scales up from the center of himself. So if I drag that up, you see how that is? And he's less kind of in here. You see his arms, but we'll play around with that. So let's bring that back down again. Just cancel that. I'm going to set a keyframe. We can move this around. Set a keyframe for the scale and the position. Move it along a bit. And we're going to scale him up a little bit. You see how his foot is there? So maybe we'll go over a little bit. And you know what we can hide this with? We can hide this actually if we just turn up the stroke a little bit. There's a little bit more, maybe not too much. I'm going to move him around a little bit over to the left a bit. Doesn't really matter too much because you'll see what we do with the bottom clip, the background layer. So there he is. There's Kevin. I'm going to bring him down a little bit more. Let's keep his hands in. I mean, you could do this forever really, but there's his feet, but that's absolutely fine. So what we're going to do with this now? Well, we've got that coming up. Let's just bring that back and just show him. Play that back. And he's going up a little bit. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring those keyframes to the beginning, and I want that to go even slower. So let's bring that up to about maybe there, and let's grow that out. Good. Like that. Happy. And I think I'll be happy with that being the end of the whole thing, and then we'll go back to him. So to do that, I'm going to highlight them both, and I just want to trim the ends. So with them both highlighted, W, and then we're back into him dancing. Cool. So now we've got that moving up here on this top clip. We're then going to keyframe some other things on the bottom clip. First and foremost, we're going to take down the exposure, just to kind of bring him more front and center. We're also going to bring down the saturation. How do we do that? Well, if we go to color, and let's keep effect controls on, and I'm just going to affect something quickly, because then that brings up Lumetri color in here. Just going to undo that, but it stays. And the reason why I want it here is because I want to keyframe it. Okay, so if I find exposure there, right at the beginning of the clip, I'm going to toggle on a keyframe. I'm then going to come along a little bit, and I'm going to bring down that exposure just to about there. Good, happy with that. At the same time, I'm also going to bring down the saturation. So you know how saturation is down here? Well, it's over here as well. So I'm going to hit a keyframe for saturation. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the keyframe for the exposure, set a keyframe there on saturation, come across and just bring down that saturation just a little bit. You see how he now really pops because we've brought down the saturation there. The final one I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring on, I'm going to blur out the background a little bit. So if I go back to here, just so I can easily get to my effects, and we're going to add what's called a Gaussian blur. Gaussian blur is used on so much. And if I drag that onto this bottom clip, nothing happens yet because it's set to 0, but here's Gaussian blur. I'm just going to make a keyframe there at the end, right to the beginning again, put another keyframe, and then go back to the second keyframe where everything is kind of, you know, desaturated and darker. And I'm going to drag this up a little bit and watch the back. See how that's blurred out? Blur it out a little bit more, and there he is. So if we kind of play that back from here, you can see that now we have Kevin being brought out, boom, and then we go back to him dancing. So all that's left really is to put that text that you saw behind. How do we do that? Well, I will use what I love using, reset the layout, because I want to bring up my Premiere Composer. And let's find some text for him. I'm going to go into Essential Typography, text, maybe 2 lines. And do you know what I'm going to do? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the starter pack, and I'm going to go for text presets. You see how we have all these? I want one where it's going to be moving in. That one. Love that. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to say I want it to come in from, I want it to come in from the left. And let's add that. Cool. So if I place that over our clip, and what I want to do is I want to have it positioned over to the side here. So I'm going to move this position over here. And we're going to say, we're going to put this up as Kevin. You can leave it white because that's the color of the stroke. I'm going to chain this to my Nor'Wester because I love that. And let's see how that looks. Kevin. Good. Now, as you saw, that actually started on the side there. That's part of the animation. So I want that to start off screen a little bit further. And I'm going to add motion blur here. So with motion blur, we'll play it through. And it comes in. Let's just pre-render this quickly just so we can see it properly. Set our in and our out points. Control Enter to pre-render. And we'll play that back. There's Kevin. And then that'll go off. Good. Happy with that. Now I'm going to create a second line first, and then I'm going to show you the last little bit. So I'm going to duplicate this. So we've got Kevin twice, but I'm going to use the bottom one just good for my eyes. I'm going to bring that one down. So we've got two versions of Kevin, and we're going to write dancing man. He's a dancing man. I'm going to change this to maybe Nexa. I'm going to bring it down, the scale down a little bit. And we're going to bring it up, and we're going to make it left justified. So we're going to line up the D with the K. In fact, I don't want to go too far, so I'm going to select the first one, Kevin, and I'm going to bring that over. Oh, a little bit too far. Just to there. Okay. And I want the text coming in behind him. Well, the great thing is that we've got Kevin cut out. If I go back a couple of frames, so we've got him, we have the motion blur on, so let's just turn the motion blur off for now so you can see what I mean. You see how the V is over him, it's kind of in front of him. Let's go back a couple of frames so it kind of fully really shows. There we are. So there's the eye right in front of him. So because we've got him cut out, we can have the text going behind him. And the easy way to do that is this bit right here, which has him cut out. We just put it above the text. You see how the eye isn't there now? If I turn off that, you can see the eye is there. So both of those are now going behind him. Just going to go back in and turn on the motion blur again and pre-render this. In fact, let's pre-render it all. And now if we play this back from the beginning, we've got Kevin having a really good dance, and people think, oh, who's that guy? Well, he's Kevin, the dancing man. And he carries on. It's a cool effect, isn't it?